Did you know that right now, as you're watching this, 60 trillion cells in your body are listening to every word you speak? I'm not talking about some mystical mumbo-jumbo here. I'm talking about a scientific reality that most people never discover. Your DNA isn't just a fixed blueprint sitting passively in your cells. It's a living, breathing, responsive intelligence that changes based on how you communicate with it. And tonight, I'm going to show you exactly how to have that conversation. How to literally speak to your genetic code and watch your future reshape itself before your eyes. Now, before you roll your eyes thinking this is another one of those wild theories, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to break free from family patterns that have plagued generations, while others repeat the same cycles of struggle, illness, or limitation? Why do some people with terrible genetic predispositions live healthy, abundant lives, while others with perfect genetic markers struggle? The difference isn't luck, it's communication. It's knowing how to talk to the intelligence that runs your biological software. You see, your DNA is like the world's most sophisticated computer, and every thought you think, every word you speak, every emotion you feel is a command being entered into that system. Most people never realize they're programming themselves every single moment. They inherit not just physical traits from their ancestors, but emotional patterns, belief systems, and limitation programs that get coded right into their cellular structure. And then they spend their whole lives wondering why they can't break free from patterns that feel bigger than them. But here's what changes everything. Your genetic expression isn't fixed. Science has proven this through something called epigenetics. Your genes are like light switches that can be turned on or off based on environmental factors. And one of the most powerful environmental factors is your conscious intention directed through focused communication with your cells. When you learn to speak the language your DNA understands, you literally become the programmer of your own biological destiny. Let me tell you about Sarah. She came from a family where every woman developed diabetes by age 50. Her mother had it, her grandmother had it, her great-grandmother had it. Sarah was 28, and already seeing early signs. She was convinced it was inevitable. That's when she learned about cellular communication. She started having daily conversations with her DNA, thanking her cells for their intelligence, commanding her pancreas to function perfectly, speaking health and vitality into her genetic code. 2 years later, her blood work showed no signs of prediabetes. Her doctor called it remarkable. I call it conversation. The truth is, your body is not your enemy. Your genes are not your prison. They're your partners, waiting for clear instructions from the only voice they recognize as authority, yours. Every cell in your body contains the same DNA, and that DNA is equipped with an intelligence that responds to conscious direction. But most people never learn how to give that direction clearly. They spend their days unconsciously programming limitation, speaking defeat, thinking thoughts that activate stress genes and suppress healing genes. Think about this for a moment. When you say things like, "I'm so stressed," or "this is killing me," or "I have my father's bad back," what instructions do you think you're giving to your genetic code? You're literally telling your cells how to express themselves. You're activating genetic patterns that may have been dormant and suppressing patterns that could heal you. Your DNA doesn't know the difference between truth and programming. It simply responds to the most repeated, emotionally charged instructions it receives. But when you understand that your DNA is listening, everything changes. When you realize that you can literally reprogram genetic tendencies through conscious communication, you step into a power that most people never even imagine. You stop being a victim of your genetics and start being the director of your genetic expression. You stop inheriting limitations and start creating upgrades. Now, let me be clear about something. This isn't about denying medical reality or replacing proper health care. This is about recognizing that your consciousness is the most powerful tool you have for influencing your genetic expression. It's about understanding that you're not just a body with a mind. You're a consciousness using a body, and that consciousness has the ability to communicate with and direct the intelligence that runs your biological systems. Here's the secret that changes everything. Your DNA responds to specific types of communication. It responds to gratitude, appreciation, and respect. It responds to clear, positive commands given with emotion and repetition. It responds to visualization backed by feeling. And most powerfully, it responds to love. When you speak to your cells with the same love and care you'd speak to a beloved child, something magical happens. They respond. They listen. They begin to express their highest potential. So how do you actually do this? How do you have a conversation with something you can't see? It's simpler than you think. Every morning when you wake up, before you check your phone or rush into your day, place your hand on your heart and say, "Good morning, beautiful cells. Thank you for working perfectly. Thank you for healing, regenerating, and expressing health. Today we create vitality together." Feel the gratitude as you say it. Let it sink into your chest. You're not talking to empty space. You're talking to 60 trillion intelligent workers who are waiting for their daily instructions. Throughout the day, catch yourself when you speak negatively about your body or your health. Instead of saying, "I'm exhausted," try saying, "My cells are recharging themselves perfectly." Instead of, "I'm getting old," say, "I'm getting better." Instead of complaining about aches and pains, thank your body for the feedback and command healing into those areas. Your cells don't know you're just making conversation. They take every word as a direct order. At night, before you sleep, have a deeper conversation. Speak to specific organs, systems, or areas that need attention. Thank your heart for beating perfectly. Command your immune system to be strong and vigilant. Speak peace to your nervous system. Tell your brain to repair and regenerate while you sleep. Your cells are most receptive during rest periods, so this nighttime programming is incredibly powerful. But here's where most people get stuck. They try this for a day or two, don't see immediate physical changes, and give up. But genetic reprogramming doesn't work like a light switch. It works like cultivation. You're literally growing new patterns of expression. You're overriding programs that may have been running in your family line for generations. This takes consistency, patience, and faith in the process. Think about it this way. If you've been unconsciously programming limitation for 20, 30, or 50 years, those patterns have deep roots. But every time you consciously speak health, vitality, and possibility to your cells, you're planting new seeds. Every time you choose a healing thought over a limitation thought, you're watering those seeds, and eventually, those new patterns become stronger than the old ones. The new programming takes over. I want you to understand something profound about genetic inheritance. You didn't just inherit your eye color and height from your ancestors. You inherited their beliefs about money, their fears about relationships, their patterns of thinking about health and aging. But here's the beautiful truth. You also inherited their capacity for joy, their strength, their resilience, and their potential for greatness. When you learn to communicate with your DNA, you can choose which genetic expressions to activate and which to override. This is where it gets really exciting. You're not just healing yourself when you do this work. You're healing your ancestral line. You're creating new patterns that can be passed down to future generations. Every time you break a limitation pattern and establish a health pattern, you're literally changing the genetic legacy you leave behind. You become a genetic way-shower for your entire family line. Let me share something that will shift how you think about your body forever. Your DNA contains what scientists call junk DNA, sections that don't seem to code for anything specific. But recent research suggests this isn't junk at all. It's potential, it's unused capacity, it's genetic possibilities waiting to be activated. When you learn to communicate with your DNA consciously, you begin to access this potential. You literally unlock genetic capacities that have been dormant. So here's your challenge for the next 7 days. I want you to have 3 conscious conversations with your DNA every day. Morning, afternoon, and night. Thank your cells. Give them clear, positive instructions. Speak to them with love and appreciation, and watch what happens. You might notice better sleep. You might feel more energy. You might see small improvements in areas where you've had chronic issues. These aren't coincidences, they're responses. Your DNA is saying, finally, someone's talking to us with intention. Remember, your body is not separate from your mind. Your genes are not separate from your consciousness. You are an integrated system where thought becomes biology, where intention becomes expression, where consciousness becomes form. When you honor this truth and learn to work with it consciously, you step into your role as the co-creator of your genetic destiny. Your future isn't written in your DNA. It's waiting to be spoken into existence through your conscious communication with the intelligence that runs your body. So, start talking. Your cells are listening. And they're ready to express the highest version of health, vitality, and possibility that your consciousness can command. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment below and tell me what you're going to say to your DNA today. And make sure to subscribe because we're just getting started on this journey of conscious genetic programming. Your cells are waiting for your voice. Give them something beautiful to work with. Here are the next chapters continuing seamlessly. Now that you understand your DNA is listening, let's talk about something most people never realize. You're not just carrying your own genetic patterns. You're carrying the emotional imprints, the limitation beliefs, and the survival programming of every ancestor who came before you. That anxiety you feel when money gets tight, that might not even be yours. That fear of speaking up for yourself, that could be your great-grandmother's voice still echoing through your genetic code. The beautiful thing is, once you recognize these inherited patterns, you can literally have a conversation with them and choose which ones serve you and which ones need to be lovingly released. Think about your family for a moment. Are there patterns that seem to repeat generation after generation? Maybe it's financial struggle, relationship drama, health issues, or just a general sense that life is hard. Most people accept these patterns as normal, as just how our family is. But what if I told you these patterns are just genetic programs running on autopilot? What if I told you that you have the power to interrupt these programs and install new ones? Here's how it works. Every traumatic experience, every limiting belief, every fear-based decision your ancestors made created an energetic imprint in their genetic code. These imprints get passed down like invisible inheritance, shaping how you respond to similar situations. But here's the key. These aren't fixed destinies. They're just programs, and programs can be rewritten. Let me tell you about Michael. He came from a long line of men who died young from heart attacks. His father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all died before 60. Michael was 45 and terrified. Every chest pain sent him into panic. That's when he learned about genetic communication. Instead of living in fear, he started having daily conversations with his heart, his cardiovascular system, his DNA. He spoke strength and longevity into his genetic code. He thanked his heart for beating perfectly and commanded his arteries to be clear and flexible. Today, at 62, he's the healthiest he's ever been. He broke a generational pattern through conscious communication. You can do the same thing. But first, you need to identify which patterns you're carrying that aren't actually yours. Notice what fears feel bigger than your personal experience. Notice what limitations feel like they come from somewhere deeper than your own life. These are usually ancestral programs running in your system. The good news is, your DNA doesn't care how old a program is. It only cares about what you're telling it right now. So here's what you do. When you notice an inherited pattern showing up, don't fight it. Don't judge it. Simply acknowledge it with love and speak directly to it. Say something like, "I see you, ancestral fear. Thank you for trying to protect our family line, but I choose a different program now. I choose courage, abundance, and health. I release this pattern with love and install new programming for myself and future generations." Your DNA responds to this kind of conscious direction because it recognizes your authority. You're not just a victim of genetic inheritance, you're the current CEO of your genetic expression. You get to decide which programs to keep running and which ones to update. When you speak with this level of intentional authority, your cells literally begin to express differently. You start breaking patterns that have run in your family for generations. But let's get even more specific about how to communicate with your DNA effectively. Your genetic code responds to certain types of language better than others. It responds to present tense statements, not future promises. Instead of saying, "I will be healthy," say, "I am healthy. My cells express perfect vitality now. Your DNA lives in the eternal now. It can only work with current instructions. Your genetic code also responds to emotional intensity. When you speak to your cells with genuine feeling, with real appreciation, with heartfelt love, the message penetrates deeper. Dry, mechanical affirmations bounce off the surface. But when you speak with emotion, when you really feel what you're saying, that feeling becomes the carrier wave that delivers your message directly to your genetic intelligence. Specificity matters too. Instead of just saying, "Be healthy," give your DNA detailed instructions. Heart, beat at perfect rhythm. Arteries, remain clear and flexible. Immune system, recognize and eliminate anything that doesn't serve. Brain, form new neural pathways that support joy and clarity. Your DNA loves detailed instructions. It's like having the most sophisticated operating system in the universe, but you need to know how to program it properly. Now, here's something fascinating about genetic communication. Your DNA doesn't just respond to your words, it responds to your mental images, your emotional states, and even your intentions. When you visualize yourself healthy, vibrant, and successful while feeling genuine gratitude for your cells, you're sending multiple signals simultaneously. This creates what I call genetic coherence. All your systems align around the same message. Try this right now. Close your eyes and picture your DNA as beautiful, glowing strands of light inside every cell. See this light pulsing with intelligence, with responsiveness, with love. Now speak to this light. Tell it you're grateful for its constant work. Tell it you appreciate its intelligence. Ask it to express the highest possibilities coded within. Feel the communication happening. This isn't imagination. This is conscious collaboration with your genetic intelligence. What's really exciting is that you don't have to understand the technical details of how DNA works to communicate with it effectively. Your genetic intelligence is much smarter than your conscious mind. It knows how to translate your intentions into biological reality. Your job isn't to micromanage the process. Your job is to provide clear, consistent, emotionally charged instructions and then trust your genetic intelligence to carry them out. Here's where many people get confused. They think they need to force their genes to change. But force creates resistance, even at the cellular level. Instead, you want to invite change. You want to create an environment where your DNA feels safe to express its highest potential. When you speak to your cells with love, appreciation, and gentle authority, you create this environment naturally. Think of yourself as the conductor of a genetic orchestra. Each cell is a musician waiting for your direction. When you conduct with clarity, passion, and skill, the music that emerges is beautiful. When you conduct with confusion, fear, or doubt, the music becomes chaotic. Your cells are always playing the music of your consciousness. Make sure it's a symphony worth listening to. Let me address something important here. Some of you might be thinking, but what about serious genetic conditions? Can communication really change those? And while I'm not suggesting you ignore medical care, I am saying that your consciousness plays a much bigger role in genetic expression than most people realize. There are documented cases of people with genetic predispositions who never develop the associated conditions because they maintain different mental and emotional patterns than expected. Your genes are like a vast library of possibilities. Some books are more prominent on the shelves than others, but you get to choose which books to read, which stories to live. When you learn to communicate consciously with your genetic library, you can literally choose which genetic stories get expressed in your life. You can take books of limitation off the prominent shelf and move books of possibility to the front. This is why daily communication with your DNA is so powerful. Every day, you're choosing which genetic programs to activate and which to leave dormant. Every thought, every word, every emotion is a vote for the kind of genetic expression you want to see. When you vote consciously, intentionally, and consistently, the results can be remarkable. But here's something most people never consider. When you heal a genetic pattern in yourself, you're not just healing your future, you're healing your past and your lineage. Genetic healing works both forward and backward through family lines. When you break a pattern of depression, anxiety, or limitation, you literally change the energetic signature that pattern carries in your family system. Future generations inherit your upgraded programming instead of the old limitations. This means you're not just responsible for your own genetic expression, you're a genetic pioneer for your entire family line. Every time you choose courage over fear, abundance over scarcity, health over illness, you're creating new pathways that your children and their children can follow. You're literally changing the genetic inheritance you leave behind. So when you speak to your DNA, remember that you're not just talking to your own cells. You're talking to the genetic intelligence of your entire lineage. You're updating the family software. You're installing new programs that can benefit generations you'll never meet. This responsibility might feel overwhelming, but it's actually incredibly empowering. You get to be the ancestor that future generations thank for breaking the old patterns and establishing new ones. Now, let's talk about what to do when you encounter resistance. And you will encounter resistance, both from your own mind and from your genetic patterns. Change, even positive change, often triggers safety mechanisms in your system. Your DNA has been running certain programs for so long that it might initially resist new instructions, not out of stubbornness, but out of a desire to maintain stability. When you notice resistance, don't fight it. Acknowledge it with compassion. Say something like, "I understand you're trying to keep me safe with these old patterns. Thank you for that protection. But I'm ready for something new now. I'm ready to express my highest genetic potential. Please help me make this transition smoothly and safely." This approach honors the wisdom of your genetic intelligence while still asserting your authority to choose new expressions. Consistency is your best friend when dealing with resistance. Your DNA responds to repetition and routine. When you communicate with your cells at the same times each day, with the same level of intention and emotion, you create a rhythm that your genetic intelligence begins to expect and respond to. It's like training any intelligent system. Consistent input creates predictable output. Here's a daily protocol that can transform your genetic expression in just 30 days. Morning, wake up and thank your DNA for working perfectly through the night. Give it instructions for expressing vitality, clarity, and joy throughout the day. Afternoon, check in with your cells during a quiet moment. Ask how they're doing and send them appreciation and encouragement. Evening, have a deeper conversation. Speak to specific organs, systems, or areas that need attention. Thank your DNA for everything it accomplished during the day and program it for healing, regeneration, and positive expression during sleep. If 30 days feels like too much, start with 7 days. If 7 days feels like too much, start with 1 day. The key is to start. Your DNA has been waiting your entire life for conscious communication. It doesn't matter if you begin perfectly or imperfectly, it just matters that you begin. Remember, you're not trying to fix something broken. You're awakening something that was always there. Your genetic intelligence is magnificent. It knows how to heal, how to adapt, how to express optimally. It's just been waiting for clear instructions from the only voice it recognizes as the ultimate authority, yours. What's really beautiful about this work is that it changes how you see yourself. Instead of feeling like a victim of your genetics, you start to feel like a partner with your genetic intelligence. Instead of fearing what might be coded in your DNA, you get excited about the possibilities you can activate. Instead of feeling powerless over your biological destiny, you realize you're actually the co-creator of your genetic expression. Your DNA is not your fate. It's your faithful servant, waiting for direction from a conscious commander. You are that commander. You have the authority. You have the power to speak new life into your genetic code. So start using that power. Start having those conversations. Your cells are listening, and they're ready to express the highest version of health, vitality, and potential that your consciousness can imagine. The future you desire isn't determined by the genes you inherited. It's determined by the conversations you have with those genes starting right now. So, what are you going to tell your DNA today? What new programs are you going to install? What old patterns are you ready to lovingly release? The choice is yours, and your genetic intelligence is waiting to fulfill whatever you consciously choose to express. Talk to your DNA like it's the most intelligent, responsive, loving partner you've ever had, because that's exactly what it is. Your genetic code isn't working against you. It's working with you, for you, as you. When you remember this truth and act on it consistently, you step into your role as the conscious director of your own genetic destiny. Your transformation starts with a conversation. Your healing begins with communication. Your new genetic legacy is just one loving word away. So speak life, speak health, speak possibility into your cells. They're listening, they're responding, and they're ready to express miracles in your life starting right now. If this knowledge is stirring something deep inside you, if you can feel your cells responding to these words even as you read them, then you know this isn't just information. This is activation. You're awakening to your power as a genetic co-creator. Use that power wisely, use it lovingly, and use it daily. Your DNA is waiting for your voice. Make sure what you tell it is worthy of the magnificent being you came here to be. Here's something that will absolutely blow your mind. Your DNA doesn't just store information about your physical traits. It stores emotional memories, trauma patterns, and even belief systems that have been passed down through generations. Scientists are now discovering that traumatic experiences actually change genetic expression in ways that can be inherited by children and grandchildren. But here's the incredible part. If trauma can be coded into DNA, then healing can be too. When you consciously communicate love, safety, and healing to your genetic code, you're not just changing your own expression, you're literally rewriting the emotional inheritance you carry. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever had an emotional reaction that seemed way bigger than the situation called for? Maybe a panic about money that felt ancient, or a fear of abandonment that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than your personal experience. These could be genetic emotional memories playing out in your system. Your DNA carries not just the survival strategies of your ancestors, but their emotional patterns too. The beautiful thing is, when you recognize these patterns, you can speak directly to them and offer your cells a new emotional program. Let me tell you about Maria. She carried generations of women who believed they weren't allowed to speak their truth. Her grandmother was silenced, her mother swallowed her words, and Maria found herself unable to express herself in relationships and at work. When she learned about cellular communication, she started having daily conversations with her throat chakra and her genetic code. She would say, "Dear cells, it's safe to speak truth now. Our family line is ready for authentic expression. I give you permission to release the old pattern of silence and embrace the new pattern of confident communication." Within 6 months, Maria had asked for a raise, set boundaries in her relationship, and started a blog that touched thousands of lives. She literally reprogrammed generations of genetic silence. Your DNA responds powerfully to permission. Many of the limitations you carry aren't actually yours. They're protective patterns your ancestors developed to survive difficult times. Your great-grandmother might have learned to stay small to stay safe. Your grandfather might have learned to work himself to death because leisure felt dangerous. These survival strategies got coded into your genetic memory as protection, but what protected them might be limiting you now. So here's a powerful practice. When you notice a limiting pattern showing up in your life, ask yourself, whose pattern is this? What ancestor learned this strategy to survive? Then speak directly to that ancestral pattern with love and gratitude. Thank you for keeping our family line safe. Thank you for helping our ancestors survive. But I'm ready for something new now. I give our DNA permission to express joy, abundance, and freedom. I update our family programming with love. Your cells respond to this kind of conscious permission because you're honoring the wisdom of the past while claiming your authority to choose the future. You're not rejecting your ancestors. You're graduating their lessons and moving the family line forward into new possibilities. Now, let's talk about something really fascinating. Your DNA has what scientists call cellular memory. Every cell in your body contains not just genetic information, but memory imprints of everything you've experienced. These cellular memories influence how you react to situations, what you believe is possible, and even what you're attracted to or afraid of. But here's what most people don't realize. Cellular memory can be consciously updated through direct communication with your cells. When you've had a traumatic experience, the memory gets stored not just in your brain, but in your cells. This is why sometimes your body reacts to situations before your mind even processes what's happening. Your cellular memory is trying to protect you based on past experiences, but sometimes these protective memories outlive their usefulness and start limiting your life instead of protecting it. The beautiful thing is, you can literally have conversations with your cellular memory. You can thank it for trying to protect you and then give it new information to work with. You can say, "Dear cells, I know you remember that time I was hurt. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. But I'm stronger now, and I'm ready for new experiences. Please update your memory banks with images of me being safe, loved, and successful. Please help me respond to life from possibility, not from old protection." This isn't just positive thinking. This is conscious reprogramming of your cellular storage system. When you consistently give your cells new information to store, new images to reference, new beliefs to operate from, they gradually update their response patterns. You literally begin reacting to life from a new cellular database. Your DNA also responds incredibly powerfully to gratitude. When you express genuine appreciation for your genetic intelligence, something magical happens. Your cells begin expressing their highest potential. It's like the difference between an employee who feels unappreciated and one who feels valued. The valued employee naturally does better work, takes more initiative, and expresses more creativity. Your cells work the same way. Try this experiment. For the next week, spend 5 minutes each morning expressing gratitude to your DNA. Thank it for beating your heart perfectly, for breathing you automatically, for healing cuts and bruises, for fighting off infections, for digesting your food, for thinking your thoughts. Feel genuine appreciation for the incredible intelligence that runs your body without you having to think about it. Watch what happens to your energy levels, your mood, your overall sense of well-being. You'll be amazed at how responsive your genetic intelligence is to simple appreciation. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your DNA doesn't just respond to your conscious thoughts and words, it responds to your unconscious patterns too. Every habit you have, every automatic reaction, every unconscious belief is constantly programming your genetic expression. This is why awareness is so important. You can't change what you don't notice. But once you become aware of your unconscious programming, you can consciously choose to install new programs. Most people live their lives on genetic autopilot. They inherited certain patterns and they just run those patterns unconsciously for their entire lives. They never realize they have the power to consciously direct their genetic expression. But you're different. You're learning how to step into conscious partnership with your DNA. You're learning how to be the programmer of your own genetic software. This is especially powerful when it comes to aging. Most people have unconsciously programmed their cells with beliefs about aging that create exactly what they expect. They expect their energy to decrease with age, so their cells comply. They expect their memory to fade, so their brain cells start operating from that program. They expect their body to break down, so their genetic intelligence starts expressing breakdown instead of renewal. But what if you programmed your cells differently? What if you told your DNA that you expect to get better with age, stronger with time, wiser and more vibrant with each passing year? What if you spoke to your cells about renewal, regeneration, and continuous improvement? Your genetic intelligence would respond to those instructions instead. You would literally age differently because you're giving your DNA different programs to run. I know someone who started speaking to her DNA about youthful vitality when she turned 50. She would tell her cells daily, "You know how to renew yourself perfectly. Every cell is regenerating with increased vitality. My DNA expresses optimal health and youthful energy." 20 years later, at 70, people regularly guess she's in her early 50s. Her genetic expression literally changed in response to her consistent communication. She didn't try to stop aging. She reprogrammed what aging meant in her cellular system. Your DNA is also incredibly responsive to love. When you speak to your cells with genuine love, when you treat your body like a beloved friend, when you appreciate your genetic intelligence like a precious gift, something beautiful happens. Your cells begin expressing love back to you in the form of health, vitality, and resilience. Love is literally the most powerful genetic activator there is. This is why self-criticism is so damaging on a cellular level. When you constantly criticize your body, complain about your health, or speak negatively about your genetic inheritance, you're programming your cells with messages of rejection and inadequacy. Your DNA responds by expressing more of what you're criticizing. But when you shift to love, appreciation, and positive expectation, your cells shift their expression to match those messages. Here's a powerful practice for programming love into your genetic code. Each night before sleep, place your hands on different parts of your body and speak love directly to those areas. Place your hand on your heart and say, "I love you, beautiful heart. Thank you for beating perfectly. You are so appreciated." Move to your stomach and say, "I love you, digestive system. Thank you for processing nutrition perfectly. You are so wise and capable." Continue this throughout your body, speaking love and appreciation to every organ, every system, every cell. What you're doing is literally bathing your genetic code in the frequency of love. You're giving every cell a direct experience of being valued and appreciated. When cells feel loved, they naturally express their highest potential. Love is like genetic fertilizer. It activates dormant possibilities and amplifies healthy expression. Now let's talk about how your DNA responds to your environment. Your genetic expression is constantly influenced by what you expose yourself to mentally, emotionally, and physically. The music you listen to, the shows you watch, the conversations you have, the people you spend time with, all of this is programming your genetic expression moment by moment. Your cells are like sponges, absorbing the energetic information from your environment and adjusting their expression accordingly. This is why it's so important to be conscious about what you expose your cells to. If you're constantly consuming negative news, your cells receive stress signals and express accordingly. If you surround yourself with positive, uplifting content, your cells receive signals of safety and possibility. Your genetic intelligence doesn't filter this information. It simply responds to whatever energy is most present in your environment. You can use this understanding to consciously create an environment that supports optimal genetic expression. Choose music that makes you feel good. Watch content that inspires and uplifts you. Spend time with people who believe in possibilities. Create physical spaces that feel peaceful and beautiful. Your cells respond to all of this input by expressing more health, creativity, and joy. But here's something most people never consider. Your sleep time is when your DNA does its most important work. While you're unconscious, your genetic intelligence is busy repairing, regenerating, and processing the day's experiences. This is why what you program into your subconscious before sleep is so powerful. Your cells work on those instructions all night long. Start ending each day with conscious programming for your DNA. As you're falling asleep, give your genetic intelligence specific instructions for the night's work. Tell it to repair any damage, to regenerate any worn tissues, to process and release any stress from the day, to integrate any new learning, to prepare your body for tomorrow's possibilities. Your DNA loves having clear instructions for its nighttime work. When you consciously direct this process, you wake up feeling more refreshed and renewed. Sleep programming is especially powerful for healing specific conditions. If you have an area of your body that needs attention, speak to it directly before sleep. Tell your cells exactly what kind of healing you want them to focus on during the night. Give them permission to use their full intelligence and capability. Thank them in advance for the healing work they're about to do. Your genetic intelligence responds incredibly well to this kind of specific, appreciative instruction. What's really beautiful about conscious genetic communication is that it connects you more deeply to yourself. Instead of feeling like your body is something separate from you, something that might betray you or let you down, you start feeling like you're in conscious partnership with the most intelligent system in the known universe. You start to trust your body's wisdom and your genetic intelligence's capability to heal and thrive. This trust is incredibly powerful. When you trust your DNA's intelligence and communicate with it regularly, you develop what I call cellular confidence. You know that your body is always working for your highest good. You know that your genetic intelligence is constantly adapting and optimizing. You know that your cells are your allies in creating the life you desire. This confidence radiates out and affects everything else in your life. Your relationship with your DNA becomes a model for all your other relationships. When you learn to communicate with love, appreciation, and clear intention with your cells, you naturally start communicating that way with other people too. When you learn to trust your body's wisdom, you start trusting your own inner guidance more. When you see how responsive your cells are to positive input, you become more conscious about the energy you share with others. This is why genetic communication is really about much more than just health. It's about awakening to your power as a conscious creator. It's about recognizing that you're not a victim of your circumstances, your inheritance, or your past. You're a powerful being capable of directing energy, consciousness, and matter itself. Your DNA is just the most immediate and responsive place to practice this power. Every conversation you have with your cells is an act of conscious creation. Every time you choose to speak health instead of illness, possibility instead of limitation, love instead of criticism, you're literally reshaping your biological reality. You're proving to yourself that consciousness can direct matter, that intention can influence form, that love can heal anything. Your DNA is not your destiny. It's your partner in creating whatever destiny you choose. When you learn to communicate with this partner effectively, consistently, and lovingly, there's literally no limit to what you can heal, what you can create, what you can become. You have 60 trillion cells waiting for your conscious direction. What are you going to tell them today?